Also, one more thing about Kennedy, dude.
Yeah.
Why go to the moon? It's probably my favorite speech.
We do things.
Why? Yeah. We choose to go to the moon, not because it is easy, but because it is hard.
Because it's hard, yes.
Dude.
And he also, in one of his speeches about them, he had a great joke.
He also, in there, he goes, why does Rice play Texas? That gets me every time. I'm just like, dude, why are they playing? They get fucking killed every year.
That's right.
And they're still doing it.
Yes. Kennedy also had a great parable he used to tell. There's a lot of speeches that are lost because a lot of these guys, they didn't record every speech. But one of his, he liked telling jokes about Irish guys. So did Reagan. They had that in common. They both used like patty jokes.
Yeah.
So he tells a story during his moon mission when trying to get the money and the country behind the moon. And he talks about these 3 Irish guys walking along the leas of whatever, just crossing the great green grasses of Ireland. And then they get to a stone wall. And they go, should we climb the wall or should we go turn back and go home? And one of them takes his friend's hat off his head and throws it over the wall and says, I guess we're going. So that was part of Kennedy's thing. It's not that good.
No,
but anyway,
that's cool.
So, and then Nixon's president when they land on the moon. And there's in his library in Yorba Linda, California, where he was born and raised, and the little house that he was born in is there at the library. There's a phone, which is the phone that he talked to the moon on. It's the White House. They took the White House phone that he made. It's just a fucking beige phone with a big white button and a big red hold button. I don't know if he put them on hold, but he, talked to, well, it's just wonderful that you're up there.
You're up on the moon.
You're up there and Jack is dead. Fuck him. And
nothing could stop me now.
Yeah, no. So he was president when that happened, and so 68 turns into the 72, and now the country's really fucking changing. Everything's in color now. The TV's in color. Everything's, hippies are starting to get old.
Yeah, they're starting to wash out a little.
Yes.
What's sadder than that?
2 things happened to the hippies. First of all, they killed a bunch of them. They killed a bunch of their leaders. But they also got the drugs started to take a bad effect. They went from mind liberating pot to fucking heroin and cocaine, which are dark drugs. They became dark
evil
high.
hippies.
Yes, and then some of them grew up and had families and wanted to be rich. So, and there's another thing you can find on YouTube that's great are the debates between Abby Hoffman and Rubin. He was Jane Fonda's husband, and he was a congressman eventually. But he was one of the Jerry Rubin, I think his name is. He was one of the yippies. He's one of the. He was a wicked radical, and he used to be one of those guys. We're not taking his shit anymore, and the president come here and kiss my fucking ass. Yeah. And Abby Hoffman had the best.
Became a congressman.
Yes, Abby Hoffman was Abby Hoffman said the N-word constantly during speeches because he would just be with a bullhorn and talking about "fuck you," and he was like really inappropriate, and he was really a lit up nut. Abby Hoffman. Him and Jerry Rubin were like the East Coast, West Coast hippies. Later, Jerry Rubin became a huge capitalist. He became a yuppie. That's where the term yuppie came from. And the two of them debated. They traveled together to different universities, and they would debate their generation's new predicaments of, do we keep the fight going of trying to get out of wars and trying to be Democrats and trying to liberate this country? And the other ones were like, we got to grow up, and we got to. And what Rubin was saying was, we need a candidate. We need to win an election. So we need to go to the center, and we need to talk to big business and small business, and we need to talk about being a practical, because that's the liberal dream. And this became Clinton. This is where Clinton came from from the hippies saying, okay, we're not going to just protest our whole lives and be these losers. At one point, they had a huge amount of power. Yeah. In Vietnam, they had a lot of power. They held this vigil around the Lincoln Memorial. And I mean, think of the time. because MLK gave this speech there and they fucking shot the guy. And I remember being at the Lincoln Memorial with my kids and saying that this spot, the steps of the Lincoln Memorial, is it's a place you can really understand American history from. Because you look that way, you see Washington, and that was the creation of our country, right? And then you see the Capitol, which was the growth of this legislator. But there's Washington, which was the creation of the country and revolution. And then there was Lincoln, who kept it together as a union, who that was the second step. Yeah, we're our own country, but also even if millions die, we need to be a union. Okay, that's what Lincoln did. And then who stood here and made this place even important for a new generation? MLK stood there, and there was a sea of people, and he had to fight for inside of that union that Lincoln preserved, that Washington started. He said, we have to fight for our rights in here. He was the first one to say there's a civil way to fight for, to push for our rights legally and through through nonviolent resistance. So this is a huge place.
It's firing me up, dude.
Right?
This
country has
cool,
an incredibly romantic history. And there's another way to look at all of this, apparently, but this is the way that I was taught it, and I see it again as a story. So, but then after he'd been shot and all that became rubble, like that, all that was pushed aside. And now that we're in a fucking melee war, Nixon's president, it feels like forever. It just feels like Nixon's never not going to be president. He was a psychotic. He's taking drugs. He's drinking a lot. He was so racist. He was like, there's tapes of him saying about Italians. He's like, I don't like Italians. They smell different. He says that on tape. And
he was right.
Well, depends on if they've been cooking. But so Nixon, so the mall and the memorial is just besieged by strung out hippies, students, and veterans. Veterans who came home from the war and hate the war now and have Ron Kovic and all these guys in wheelchairs going, what the fuck did I do this for?
Yeah.
This certainly isn't World War II. What are we winning here? When is this war going to end? And it was just a mess. And in the middle of all that, in the middle of the night one night, Nixon got in his limo and drove into the middle of that. He went to the Lincoln Memorial. Do you know this?
No.
There's footage of this too. He was looking out his window. You fucking kids. The fuck did they know? But it was breaking his heart. Yeah. Because even though he had the hard hats, and even though he had the silent majority, just like now, nobody wants the silent majority. People want the cool people to like them. Twitter is like 39 people and 60,000 bots. It's very few people. It's a bunch of kids that are fighting and saying this extremist shit, and the huge vast amount of the liberal part of this country is not into any of that. But nobody's satisfied with just knowing that the average person gets it, and that when you really deal with human beings on a real level, they're going to do the right thing. I believe that. I have a lot of confidence in human and American, just the way we are as people. But these folks that yell and scream, they really get people want them to like them. And so Nixon, even though he was winning by a landslide everywhere, he's looking out that window and he's looking at those kids, because it's your kids. It's like if everybody likes you, but your kids think you're a piece of shit, it just eats at you. It just destroys you. And so he got in the limousine, and he drove into the middle of the protesters, and he got out and he talked to them. And there's just this footage of him talking. He's in his stupid suit. And they're like, man, you don't get, man, you're just you're like an imperialist piece of shit, man. And he's like, well, I understand your point, but I mean, do you just think we just give up? I mean, what happened to this country? And they talked. They really talked. I don't know what it did to him, but he did get us out of that war.
You ever see?
Nixon did pull us out of that war. Now, he did it in a way that is horrible, which is that he bombed Cambodia. And this is the story that I heard, is that he had this very specific strategy, which was he starts bombing Cambodia, which came out of nowhere. It was like, what? And then he let it
But wasn't Cambodia was where they had the Ho Chi Minh Trail, right?
I don't know.
I think they knew they could use Cambodia. Like they were using these trails in other countries.
Right,
I believe,
but still,
I believe.
it was a
I could be wrong.
country we had no right.
Yeah.
We were not at war with Cambodia, but we were bombing Cambodia as if it would be like if people were escaping to Canada and we were like, so fuck it. Or if Canadians were at war and some of them escaped into the States and whatever the other country was just started bombing fucking Wisconsin. Like, dude, you can't just do that.
Yeah.
And so many people
True.
were getting killed. And Nixon, what he did is he let it be leaked that no one could get in touch with him, like that his aides were trying to tell him to stop bombing, and that he cut off communication, and was that he wanted them to think he'd gone cuckoo, and that's how they got the Vietnamese to the table and got a peace. It wasn't a good peace. They left.
Oh, he faked that he was nuts.
That's what I heard.
That's good.
I don't know.
Well, that's history.
Reddit,
That's how you hear history.
Google. I don't know.
But it's another thing about the Vietnam. I feel like Eisenhower when he left was like the military-industrial complex. That was Vietnam.
Yes.
That got us to now. I was like, oh, now we pulled out of Afghanistan. Where are these guys going to get their money?
Mm-hmm.
Hey, $33 billion to Ukraine. Like,
well,
it's just
exactly.
nonstop.
Well, that's
it's
the
nonstop.
other side. You have your like political left that has more power than they do people, right?
Yeah.
Because they're captivating people's like anxiety. But then on the other right, you have all these people that are doing fucked up things.
Yeah.
That also are untouchables.